How goes it, YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to talk to you guys about the second G Unit mixtape, at least the second official G Unit mixtape, which was No Mercy, No Fear. Now this is after 50 Cent's Breakout 2002. This is one of the mixtapes that helped establish getting the onslaught going for Get Rich or Die Trying, which came out in early 2003. But this is also the first project that 50 Cent and G Unit worked on after signing to Eminem's Shady Records and Dr. Dre's Aftermath Entertainment, which is pretty awesome. So basically, between like 50 Cent is the Future and there was another one, Guess Who's Back, which were both released in early 2002. These were like the two ones that caught Eminem's attention, and it happened pretty much immediately across like the summer of 2002, and then that began the onslaught as far as trying to get 50 Cent into album mode. I mean, he had been working on albums. He almost put out Power of the Dollar and stuff like that in the early 2000s, but this was kind of a lot more kind of like chiseled and a lot more sophisticated 50 Cent and G Unit, and especially the fact that Lloyd Banks and Yayo have some pretty fiery verses. So 50 Cent doesn't even have an album out, and he already has some homies that were gonna drop probably years after 50 Cent would go on to, and they did. So that's just kind of the thing. So he had the album rollout plan for Lloyd Banks and Tony Yayo back in 2002, but this is of course before Tony Yayo wound up going to prison in like late 2002, early 2003, somewhere around there. But this is Yayo on here, so it's pretty awesome getting that original G Unit. But yeah, so there's just a lot of stuff about it. I do particularly like this mixtape just because there are some gems on here, and there's definitely like some great moments in terms of like seeing what 50 Cent was attempting to do in terms of his album rollout for what he was eventually going to do. Now, I'm not saying I like every single beat on here. There is a lot of East Coast kind of like gritty, kind of stark New York kind of rap on here beats, but there are some other ones that kind of serve a lot of this up. Like most of the instrumentals that these guys rap over are East Coast beats, but there are some ones like Victory by Puff Daddy and What Goes Around by Nas and Guess Who's Back with Scarface, Jay-Z, and Beanie Single, two East Coast artists. It does have some moments where the production does sort to spruce up, and that's definitely what's needed, because in order to be a mixtape rapper in the Lil Wayne sense and the G Unit sense, where you are trying to tear apart other folks' songs, you have to be able to have a good ear for beats. I mean, for the most part, at least in my public opinion, I do not really care how good like a rap song is in terms of lyrics if the beat that they are taking from another artist is really crap. I just cannot find myself getting into those. But this album, I mean, I'm not going to say it's a perfect rendition of showcasing like the execution in terms of what it needs to do, but it's pretty damn close. I definitely feel like the execution on No Mercy, No Fear is pretty damn solid. And there are a lot of ones on here where I was like, yeah, I can't wait to see what Lloyd Banks is going to say. I can't wait to see how 50 is going to craft this into his own hook. Can't wait to see how 50 Cent's going to craft this into his own hook and see what kind of sing-songy verses he's going to do and how he's going to tear it apart. And then Yayo's kind of street soldier kind of mentality is also an extra benefit on there. So it's just great to kind of get those kinds of moments. And but there was kind of a brief single. There was kind of a brief single on this project I'll kind of slightly go over, which this is about the third or fourth time you're going to find the song Wangsta on a project. Wangsta was on the 8 Mile soundtrack, which I mean, this is the debut project that Wangsta was on. This is a great song by 50 Cent. He was sing-songy on here, really proved that he could do rap hooks extremely well. This really was kind of a taunting song, has an instantly memorable beat. 50 Cent just tore the song apart in terms of like his catchiness and punchlines and that type stuff. And this was an overall hit, and Eminem liked it so much that he threw it on 8 Mile soundtrack, and then it wound up being a bonus track on 50 Cent's debut album, Get Rich or Die Trying. But it was originally on here, and it's a pretty solid one. I like the album version better. I mean, this beat kind of sounded a lot more scrappy and kind of like not quite as refined, but I do feel like it's good if you want to not have to pay for getting this song. It is available to kind of have in like a more scrappy format on No Mercy, No Fear. But I do like this song. It's obviously one of 50 Cent's best songs. It easily should have been on here. It really is too bad. I mean, I almost would have liked to have seen how Lloyd Banks. That's one thing I noticed is Lloyd Banks never really rapped. I mean, maybe he did. I'm not really sure, but he never went in on Wangsta, and I would have loved to have seen what he would have done with that song, and then also with Tony Ayo. I mean, it makes sense that most of the G Unit members should be on standby to just go in on a 50 Cent song just to prove that they can tear it up too, but that didn't happen. I would have liked the other two, or even Young Buck. I would have liked to see what any of them would have done for Wangsta, but I know if you look hard enough, you can see that Eminem did a variation of Wangster, which was pretty damn good. I mean, he completely tore that song apart. But yeah, so um, a few of the highlights on here are like, now that there's not any other singles, I feel like there's another original song on here which is really nice, which is Elementary. And I do like this one just because it kind of comes off as like Elementary kind of comes off as like a minor party starter and that type stuff. I would have to say I appreciated. Yeah, I would have to say that Elementary is a real nice one. This really kind of feels like a kind of carnival like song. I really like the kind of festivities abound on this song. Really kind of nice carnival type beat, jovial and real fun. But 50 Cent doesn't rap on this one. There's a chick on here named Scarlett, and then Lloyd Banks and Yayo are on here. I felt like this is one of the most upkeeping kind of party songs on this whole record. I definitely would have said that that needed to kind of happen more. I definitely feel like that needed to happen more in terms of getting some more records that kind of just were more party and bullshit and kind of had those type vibes as far as being able to say this kind of cut and loose and a New York variation, especially because New York sound. I mean, 50 Cent helped revolutionize like 2000s production with Get Rich or Die Trying. I think Eminem's Eminem Show and this and 50 Cent's Get Rich or Die Trying helped shape like a lot of 2000s production because it just wasn't as good. There was a lot of stark beats and a lot of people just gave up after two singles, but 50 Cent helped do it. And this is kind of an entry level song to that format of some of the sounds that 50 Cent would find like 6 and 8 months later, and it's just good to kind of get that sort of party element. I mean, by the time like Beg for Mercy came out with the G Unit album, that had tons of hits like Groupie Love and songs like that that were kind of more jovial and had like I want to say like I Smell Pussy was another one like that. But Elementary was just kind of like a nice. There definitely needed to be way more songs like Elementary. I just feel like that's a definite denotation as far as that sort of party type number that kind of goes along with that, just for like a real carnival feel. I like 50 Cent's Green Lantern and then Soldier, which were both Eminem show beats. Till I Collapse, this is another one. The Green Lantern song, which is the Till I Collapse beat, is also on the 8 Mile soundtrack on the bonus disc. That's a brilliant one. And you can also find it on the G Unit Beg for Mercy album. And then there's Soldier, which is another one that they tore apart. I like when they get on these Eminem beats. It's just a great kind of situation. It's kind of like what Lil Wayne used to do back in the day, is as far as tearing apart some of those beats. And I mean, they sound at home on Eminem beats. I would have liked at least one more, but I'm not going to complain about that. And Victory, the Puff Daddy beat, Victory, that's off of the Puff Daddy No Way Out album that has Notorious B.I.G. and Busta Rhymes on there. I mean, of course, Lloyd Banks and 50 Cent obliterated this one. And the thing about it is, Puff Daddy was kind of meager on that song. I mean, he really didn't tear it apart as well as Biggie did, obviously. But 50 Cent keeps up in a better sense with Lloyd Banks than Puff Daddy kept up with Biggie. It just they were like a real 1-2 punch on Banks' victory. So that was just a great one. And I also feel like the Nas beat, What Goes Around, is a nice one on there. I haven't really heard. There's not a bunch of Nas records that I've heard, but I did like the beat on What Goes Around. That one just felt like being at like a subway station or just like a hot dog shop in New York or something like that. Just really kind of reminded me of just like a kind of browsing kind of day where you're just traversing through the town streets and that type stuff. Easy kind of going East Coast. I mean, these are kind of East Coast beats that I like. Songs like this, that type stuff. Biggie, Nas, Puff Daddy, Jay-Z, they never had a problem with finding beats that I liked in terms of East Coast rap. And especially, I definitely like when I can find those type folks that can do that sort of thing. But like a couple beats I didn't like I know Whoa by Black Rob's a particularly large East Coast song, but I could not get into that one. And I really I want to say I would like Black Rob, but I didn't appreciate that particular production. I definitely feel like there are better ones. Like Biggie had way better beats. Even Mace had better beats. DMX. I'm surprised that 50 Cent didn't get any DMX beats on here. Guess Who's Back was a really good one, and that had two East Coast artists on here. This is a nice Scarface song, and 50 Cent did this one by himself. It's pretty. I mean, that one was pretty stock. It wasn't like a huge highlight, but it was good enough just to be able to say that 50 Cent was able to do it. I liked when he kind of said that he has 20 guns and there's a bullet in every one. I like when he had that line. Another good one, and this is kind of more remnant of like the way that the sound would get shaped just across like the next 10, 8 months after this project came out, is I Need a Girl Part 2 by Puff Daddy, and then also The Ambitions as a Rider by Tupac. Like I feel like songs like I Need a Girl and Bump 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 by B2K, I mean a lot of that stuff was really shaping the sound. Beyonce, Sean Paul, some of those folks were kind of shaping R&B at the same time 50 Cent was kind of doing it. But 50 Cent, he just did that I Need a Girl beat for like a minute and a half, and then it switches to the Tupac Ambitions as a Rider type song type beat, or the Ambitions as a Rider beat, and they all tear that one apart. So it's just good to kind of get those two. I probably would split the song down the middle, where I would just have specifically the I Need a Girl beat as a song, and then the Ambitions as a Rider as a song, because they combine it as a two, and I just feel like they're two separate songs. They should have just made them two separate songs instead of being both in one. So I'll go ahead and list the songs I recommend to you. So out of 19 songs and minus the 4 skits, there's 15 songs. I'm going to go ahead and list the 9 songs I recommend to you. So they would be Green Lantern, Elementary, Fat Bitch, Banks Victory, Soldier, Say What You Say, Funk Flex, Part 2 / Bump Heads, and Wangsta. So to talk about some of these I didn't talk about, like Fat Bitch is another kind of bouncy, kind of low key, kind of more, not maybe not a dime piece type woman on the song, but definitely a woman that you kind of are maybe mildly embarrassed to be talking to or something like that. Not to say that fat women are not attractive, but just a woman that's kind of more questionable, like, hey, you could have this woman, why are you with her type thing. I did like that kind of beat. It was particularly funny that Tony Yayo was the one that just didn't care about, getting with, larger women. I can't say I blame him, but that's just kind of the concept. It's just interesting kind of get that song just because this is not a typical topic that G Unit really conveys, but I did like the topic of it. Just a nice kind of mildly flirty bop, just kind of in a sense. I mean, I don't know how many assured women would want to listen to this song just portraying the fact that fat women are kind of a certain way, but it's at least a decent bop, just depending upon the situation, that kind of is like in a mild flirty sense. I mean, just that's kind of the situation. So I like that one. Yeah, I think that about covers it. I think I about covered all the beats that I recommend. But for the most part, the other songs I didn't recommend, like there's an LL Cool J, there's a couple LL Cool J beats on here that I really could not get into at all. The Backseat Tony Ayo song and the After My Cheddar. Really, After My Cheddar had a pretty bad hook. I was really disappointed. Like normally 50 Cent has some pretty solid hooks, but that was just kind of an ugly kind of sounding one. And like I also didn't like Clue Shit with J.O. Felony and Over Here by KRS-One. I mean, just some of these are really just kind of strictly like hardcore East Coast hip hop that just really have like pretty brooding, and just when people talk about that real hip hop kind of quality, these are some of the ones I think are in that category. But I mean, a lot of these, I just feel like a song like I Need a Girl Part 2 by Puff Daddy, and Victory by Puff Daddy, Soldier by Eminem, What Goes Around by Nas, Guess Who's Back by Scarface, even Wangsta, 50 Cent's own beat, Baby Fat by De La Soul. I mean, some of these just have so much soaringly better productions. I just feel like maybe they were trying to go with the grimy stuff just to be able to showcase that they can do that sort of thing. I think that's what they were originally intending, was to not have so much gloss and bounce and to be strictly hardcore. But I mean, when they do that, they lose a lot of their appeal. And that's just kind of the situation. They lose a lot of their appeal trying to go with like the super grimy, stark production where it's just complete ass the whole way through, and it just does not sound fun to listen to. But they can rap. I do give them credit for. I mean, that's one thing I have to talk about on this project, is just the fact that these songs, you cannot fault their lyricism. That's the thing, especially Lloyd Banks, especially 50 Cent when he's really pissed off or annoyed or something like that. And Yayo kind of has those slanted kind of vibes about him too. So it's just kind of, they can spit, and they definitely can. They've got some interesting barbs. It's just the main problem is whether or not it's on interesting production. So I'm gonna give this project, me liking 9 out of 15. I'm gonna give this album a 7.5 out of 10. I feel like that's really good. There's enough on here, especially considering that this project is free and there's no charge to it. You got some real good gems on here. 7.5, especially the fact that there's actually 2 songs, and the fact that I Need a Girl Part 2 and the Ambitions as a Ride to Beat is actually 2 songs. So it's kind of the situation with that. But I mean, there are some other songs that kind of have 2 beats. Like there's the Clue shit that has 2 beats on there, the J.O. Felony, and then the KRS-One song. But I just would have to kind of say that for the most part, I wound up liking the vast majority of this project. So 7.5 out of 10. The social score, I'm going to give like a 6 out of 10, just because I would have liked a couple more original beats. I know 50 Cent probably had the money to do a couple more, but I definitely have to continue to convey that I think another kind of bouncy, kind of carnival-esque beat type jaunt, carnival-esque type jaunt like Elementary could have definitely been a massive benefit. I think Wangsta and Elementary were both 2 of the best moments on here just because they were new, and it would have been neat to have seen what G Unit was kind of working with in 2002 instead of just other folks' stuff. I mean, it's not too large a complaint, but I just feel like as much as I liked Elementary and the fact that 50 Cent wasn't on that song either, they needed another, at least another song or 2 that could have done that. But 6 out of 10. Elementary, Fat Bitch, I feel like Wangsta, those are all some great stepping out moments. Victory is a nice car mixtape song to hotbox. Soldier is a nice one with Eminem. That's a classic Eminem song. What Goes Around is kind of like a cruising around song with the Nas song. So yeah, there's just some ones on here to kind of have for social type moments, but 6 social. In terms of the future, like G Unit is basically defunct. Like 50 Cent said that it's not coming back, and Lloyd Banks is not even in G Unit anymore. So the only real 2 members left is just, if there was a G Unit, would just be Yayo and 50 Cent. But it's just kind of, 50 Cent's not even doing music. He's talked it, he's kind of touted in some cases about dropping some new stuff, but who knows what's going to happen. He's working on television, but that's kind of the stuff. So 7.5 out of 10. This is some really solid stuff. The fact that it's free just means you should invest in it.